It would seem as though.
Hi, I'm back. You're welcome.
It would seem as though we are back for another episode of It Would Seem As Though, the podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and nothing.
Mostly nothing.
And this week, Annika's back.
Woo! Yay!
Yeah, I gotta tell you that it was an interesting journey on my own.
Yeah.
Sitting here having a conversation with myself for an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm used to talking to myself,
Yeah, girl.
God knows, but not a full-on hour-long conversation.
No.
Where I'm trying to be witty or even entertaining.
Yeah. Even just interesting. No, just kidding.
Even interesting. Well, some parts of it, I'm sure, probably weren't.
Yeah.
Because what I did is I just pulled out this thing of like 275 questions. And some of them we'd already done in the other question thing, and some of them were new, and some of them were dumb, so I skipped a bunch, and some of them where I was like, I don't know. Like, it would ask questions like, what is your pet peeve? And it's like, I mean, I have a couple dumb little ones, but I couldn't think of like big ones.
Yeah.
And then some of the answers I thought of like after I was done, you know, that kind of thing. And it was like, well, I'm glad that's over, and I'm glad I know that if I have to, I can do it by myself.
Yeah.
Hopefully that won't happen again.
Well, I liked my advice, though. You should have just used two different voices, like the interviewee and the interviewer.
So, how are you today? I'm fine! I sound like a character from Monty Python.
Honestly, it would have been great.
Yeah, I'm sure after about 5 minutes of that, people would have been like, no.
I hate this.
That voice is cutting right through my head.
It just got barely shrill in here.
Yeah. Well, you know.
You have a tendency to do that.
I do.
Uh-huh.
I do. I've been trying very hard to get all organized for my show. I mean, I've got 2 months still.
Yeah.
So I'm good. I got plenty of time. I've got 8 weeks. And I have... so here's the thing I should tell y'all, because I am the queen, the self-proclaimed queen of the procrastinators. Now, usually when I do a show, the day before, I will make sure I have clothes and hair and music.
Yeah.
And I'll probably still be deciding on the music as I'm driving there.
Right.
You know, of course, nowadays you can't do that. You have to send in your music usually a week ahead.
Oh.
You don't bring your CD anymore or your scratched up record out your bag or
Your
whatever.
record.
Your record or your cassette.
Yeah, cassette. Can I wind this up?
My
Do you have a pen?
single.
Yeah, single. I can't.
But no, now, so at least I do know usually a week ahead. But I have picked out all of my clothes that I'm going to wear. I bought a couple new things. I am learning a new song.
Oh my god.
I know. It's like, what? And I have most of my set list written. So for me, this is big stuff, man.
Yeah, girl.
You know, and so the funny thing is I kept saying to T, I was like, if you want to pick a song for me to do, you have to, get on it. And he's like, well, okay, yeah, I have to think about it. Think a little fast.
We have 8 weeks. I need it by
the thing is,
tomorrow.
I also have to send in all of my music so that the man who will be signing the entire show can learn them.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm not doing anything I don't think terribly complicated.
Oh my god, are you doing Betty Boop?
I'm not doing Betty Boop.
God damn
It's
it.
funny because I actually talked to T about that this morning. When I used to have the very great good fortune of having signers show up at my show,
Yeah.
I would almost always be like, okay, Robert, change it.
Yeah.
We're going to do Betty Boop tonight. Because I'm sure most of you have never heard of Betty Boop.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a very fast rap song from the 80s. It's not early 90s. Early 90s. She's British. Her name is Betty Boo, and the song's called Doin' the Do. But it's fantastic.
It's so good.
But it's fast.
Yeah.
And I loved doing it, but I also loved watching the person trying to sign it.
Yeah, right?
But then I would also, while I was doing my monologue, I would curse and do different things just because I wanted to see them sign that.
Yeah, of course.
Because I liked messing with them. But this is a little different. We're going to have a signer who's going to have, access to all the music so he can really learn it all and do his thing. Yeah. Yeah, and so I'm kind of excited about that. It's going to be very professional.
Oh my
show.
God.
And I'm getting together my overture. Okay, so the last several years when I did my show, I had the same overture. Because it swapped out a few times over the years, but the last, probably, I don't know, maybe 8 years that I did my show, I had the same overture. And it's 3 separate songs, well, it's 2 songs and then a little blip of words. But what's funny is I haven't really listened to it all as one big piece since I retired from my show, which was 2006. Yeah, it's been a long time. Until this morning, I was taking the kids to school and I was trying to play things in order of how I'm going to do them in the show, in the car. And it's like, a 5-minute car ride to school, so that's not very easy. But my overture started playing, and I literally just got tears in my eyes because it's been so long. I felt all, warm and fuzzy. And,
I love that.
Nostalgic. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm excited.
You should be. I'm very excited. I already have my tickets. Gavin and I have tickets. We'll be there.
Yay.
And I'll be like, if you're in the front row, I'll be like, get the fuck out of these seats.
Move!
Yeah. This is where I sit.
Yeah, well, since my husband will have to take me there, I assume that the seats will all be, kind of... Yeah. He'll be like, don't try it.
Yeah.
I've got these reserved for my family.
Yeah, don't even look at them. They don't exist to you, bitch.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but, as I mentioned last week, my tickets sold out in 3 days. I was shocked by.
No, bitch. Let me just tell you a little ditty. You were all like, oh no, I hope I sell tickets. I hope people want to see me. And I'm like, girl, shut up. Are you kidding me? Many things that you've done have been sold out. I've been to shows that were packed. Like, what are you talking about? That people aren't going to show up? It's crazy to me. And I was like, just wait. And you're all, less than 72 hours and you sold out. I was all, huh. Weird. Who could have guessed?
Nobody could have predicted that.
Right, exactly.
I know.
But I get it. Have your little fear.
Well, and what's funny is I was talking to Sarah, my friend Sarah, who is a puppeteer. I mean, she now has to have a job in, the regular sect of the world. Can't be a puppeteer and make enough money to support your family, apparently, unless you're, doing it in Vegas.
Are you Jim Henson?
Right. Or if you're Jim Henson, but, he's dead, so... But we were talking about that. I told her my fear, and she said, I get it. Because she did a show. She was booked by this company to do a show for veterans in Bend. And it was supposed to be 2 days, do it 2 days in a row. She gets there, and there is not one single person in her audience. Because the people who put it together were stupid, and they booked it at the same time as some big food and wine festival. And so nobody was coming to this show. And it was also super hot. Who wants to sit in an auditorium? Unless it's air conditioned, which mostly they're probably not. Yeah. And so she's like, I get it. Oh my God. I, of course, knew your show would sell. But she's like, I've been there when I get to do a show and there's literally no one there. And so they did the show for the, the crew. The crew that set up the room and did all that. And I'm like, I would probably just be like, well, let's just have a party. We're here. Let's, have some snacks and hang out and whatever.
And then I'm going to go back away from Bend.
But luckily, she was being paid for it.
Oh, yeah.
So there is that. I mean, because honestly, I would be a wreck. But I used to do, late 80s, early 90s, I did Catch a Rising Star at Darcel's, which was a Tuesday night show. There were nights where it was like, oh, look, there's 3 people here. And we still had to do the full show.
Jesus.
As opposed to just going... Here's your money back. Go home.
Yeah. What the hell are you doing here?
And they would stay, and they'd want. I know if I was sitting there going, "Really, it's just the 3 of us." Yeah. But whatever. That was a long time ago. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah.
Anywho,
and exciting though.
So I know I told everybody last week that the reason you were not here is because you went to LA.
I did.
To go visit Gavin's fam.
Yes. So we went to LA. It was great. It was warm. It wasn't too... Well, some days I felt like this is too much, man. But when I came back to Portland, it was much hotter here than it was in LA the whole time I was there. So that was cool. But yeah, I got to meet Gavin's dad and his 2 brothers and eat yummy food. And his dad's house is beautiful. It was a very quick trip. But we decided, his dad initially said that he wanted to go to a play and was going to buy, he was going to get seats for the whole family. But then, one of Gavin's brothers couldn't go, and then, it narrowed it down so it would just be, me and Gavin, his dad, and one of his brothers. none of their girlfriends or anything. So his dad got one of the boxes that are like
Oh,
up
nice.
higher, which is cool. I've never sat in one. It's a very interesting view of the stage.
It is. It's kind of a weird side view.
Yeah. But I saw, so the play was 1776, the musical, and it was an all-women cast at the Omsen Theater in LA. And there were black women, indigenous women, Asian women. There were like non-binary and trans people. It was really cool. And if you don't know 1776, you could probably guess that it's about the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Right.
So that's what it deals with. But it was really, really interesting to see women and queer folk perform it, because so much of it is they still call everyone like Mr. Johnson,
Sure.
Mr.,
Yeah.
And there's one part where the person who played who's the main guy? You know what I mean?
I do, but
John Adams.
John Adams, yeah.
Yep. Was played by like a very talented black woman, and there's one song where the South and the North are like talking about how they can't sign it because the South has slaves, and this song is called Whiskey Molasses or Rum Molasses and Slaves. And this woman had to sing it to the John Adams character, who's a black woman. And it was that power dynamic was so interesting, because she was singing this song to not a white man named John Adams, to a black woman. And before the show started...
because, that's going to make you have all kinds of different thoughts about that and make your little brain do some gymnastics there.
Right? I was like, this is interesting.
I love that.
And there was an indigenous woman in the show, and before the show started, she came out to center stage and said, like, before we start this, like, amazing performance, we need to, like, honor those who lived on this land before we did, and then honor the tribes of Los Angeles that live there. And so I really like that when there's, like, the land back kind of declaration.
Yes.
But it was really good. It was so long, though, and it was at 8 o'clock at night, and I said, girl, I'm in bed by that time. But it was fine. But by the time we got to LA, so we got there on Monday, and the show was supposed to be on Wednesday, Gavin's dad hadn't bought tickets yet. So I was like, well, what are we going to do on Wednesday? We don't have any plans. And then I was like, we can go to Disneyland. And I was mostly kidding, because I was in West LA, Disneyland's in Anaheim. We didn't have a car, right? Like, was it Uber all the way there? Take a bus? Like, none of those options.
So, unless you've been there, you probably don't know it's a pretty big gap between West LA.
About like an hour away. Yeah, on the freeway. And so Gavin did his little trickery and was texting all of his family and friends and looked into tickets, and then his brother said we could use his car. So then he says to his dad, so you don't, if it's only going to be a few of us going to the play, like, are we still going? It's okay. We can make other plans. And his dad said, oh no, I already bought the tickets. And I said, great. So I was already too amped to go to Disneyland, girl. So I said, okay, but we still have to go to Disneyland. Like, we can't talk about it, arrange all this, and then not go.
Right.
So we're like, Wednesday will be the longest day of our lives. And girl,
yeah,
was it? Because we woke up at 5:30 in the morning to get ready to drive an hour to Anaheim to be at the park before it opened. Which was great because it was cool. I was still wearing shorts and a tank top, but it was like cool enough. And it was very, very slow initially for the first few hours. And I got to ride some rides and see all the new things. But we were there until like 3. So I did like a solid 7 hours in the park, which is good. I got to ride like 7 or 8 rides. We ate at a restaurant. I did some shopping. But I haven't been to Disneyland for about a decade, because I went on my 24th birthday when I lived in LA.
Oh, okay.
And that was the last time I've been there.
That's too long a decade.
Girl, let me tell you.
I haven't been for a year, and I'm already like, I need to go back.
Honestly, well, life was a lot for a while. And so going back, it just like really took me back. I got all like filled with tears, like, oh god, because I was like, it felt like coming home,
Yeah.
And I told Gavin, it was like the first time I was here, I was 15, and it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced.
Well, yeah.
Cried when I got there, and I cried when we had to leave. But yeah, so LA was a lot of fun. It was nice. I was ready to come home because I missed the family, and I missed my dogs, and I missed my bed. But it was nice.
I always miss my bed.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, like, I'm not a great sleeper, I never have been. I sleep better in my bed than I do in a hotel bed.
Sure.
Or anywhere else.
Yeah.
Or, if like we're staying at a friend's house, something. And then I don't sleep at all. But when I get home, it's like, at least it's the familiarity, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you said your first time was 15, and I know because I took you.
Mm-hmm.
My first time I was 14, And so that would have been in 1976. And things were very, very different then.
Yeah.
Because when I went the first time, well, one, I went on a fucking school bus. Because I went with my church singing group.
Oh my God.
Our little junior choir.
I'm already leaving. I don't like any of that.
Well, and the funny thing, and I talked about this a lot, is on the way there, we drove the first day. And again, on a school bus from 1976. So, there's not any kind of safety devices or any, and I don't think there still are on most buses.
No.
But those benches are rock hard.
Yeah.
But we drove from McMinnville to Wairika, California, which is, just like right over the border.
Yeah.
And then went and sang at some church. So we'd been in a bus all goddamn day.
Yeah.
And then we have to, get on our little outfit, our little matching outfits.
Yeah, matching. Yep.
And then sing a few songs or whatever the hell we did. And then they farmed us out to different homes of the people who went to this church. So I think about that now, of course, in the context of now.
Yeah.
And the idea that I would never, under any circumstances, let my children go stay with some strangers at some church I'd never been to with people I've never met.
Nor.
I mean, I don't know you. I don't care if you go to church. I don't know.
That's good for you, I guess.
No. But then, so the second day was Bakersfield.
Ugh, God.
What an armpit that place was.
Yeah.
And then the third day of travel, we got all the way to Anaheim. And we stayed in this place called the Peter Pan Motel, which is no longer there.
Sad.
And it was super cute. It was just like one of those little one-floor kind of motels that had what to me was magical. I'd never been to a motel.
Okay.
I'd also never seen topiary. There was topiary all around that were in shapes of different Disney characters.
Oh, I love it.
At this motel.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is magical.
Yeah.
And then we went the first day to Knott's Berry Farm. And thank God we did Knott's Berry Farm first.
Okay.
Because I think Knott's Berry Farm after Disneyland is a letdown.
Agreed.
But we did Knott's Berry Farm, and that was cute. Did the rides, did whatever. And then the next day we did Disneyland. But we got one day.
Oh.
And it was back when they had ticket books. And so you'd pay your entrance, whatever that was, and then you'd buy a book of tickets for the rides. And then there was the best rides were e-tickets.
Okay.
And you would get 2 in your book. And then the kind of lamest ones were probably the little kid rides and stuff, were I think A tickets, and you got 75 of those.
Okay.
And you're like, I don't care about that. And so you'd always have to buy, and you'd have to buy a whole new book. You couldn't just buy,
more.
Can I just have 6 e-tickets, please?
Yeah.
Whatever. And so, but it was, like you said, for me, I'd never been on vacation.
Yeah.
I'd never been out of,
right.
Oregon. I'd never, whatever, all those things, and certainly never been any place as magical as Disneyland. And I know lots of people, they're like, oh, it's too big, it's too commercial, it's too this, it's too that. I don't care.
Mm-mm.
To me, it is still magic.
Uh-huh. Honestly, it is. And because that was the first vacation I'd ever really gone on. I'd only been to Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. You know what I mean? By the time we'd gone to Disneyland. But even to this day, because we talked about maybe doing other things, and I do want to go to Universal. I want to see our good Judy Eddy. Love him, and he'll fucking strangle me if I don't see him next time I go to LA.
I'm sure he will.
But then, Knott's is fine. I think there's specific times I want to do things. I want to go to Knott's Berry Farm during Halloween when it's not scary farm. That's fun. But Disneyland, everything else is a letdown. Disneyland is cohesive and thematic. It is
spotless.
And spotless, yes, but every detail that every guest can see is authentic.
They miss nothing.
Iconic. It is.
And it's not like you're in any spot in the park where you kind of see behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, there's the mechanical that, or oh, there's the backdrop. Nope.
Mm-mm.
In fact, when you're in the park, you also can't see out of the park, which I love. You can't see, in Knott's Berry Farm, it's like, oh, there's the busy street driving by. In Disneyland, it is specifically planned so that the world outside doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Maybe one of our podcasts we should talk about the hidden secrets of Disney, because there's a lot, girl. But one thing I will mention is that they created their own tape color it's called like no see green or go away green, that they like wrap cords in or cover things in so guests can't see it because your eyes just like transfer over it. Yeah, it's crazy. And they're like, if you look hard enough, you will, because they do it in like grassy areas or whatever.
Okay.
But it's really interesting the things that they have, like the technology they've used to make it immerse you into this world that is actually magical. And I think that it is very that. It is.
Well, because I know one of the things that when I learned about this, I was like, what? But it makes sense, is if a guest has an emergency, they're immediately taken underneath the park.
Yeah.
Where like ambulances will go there. They won't ever come into the park.
Yeah.
They will immediately take them down into the whole area, the employee area below the park.
Yeah.
Which I was like, there's an area below the park?
I
What?
know.
I know, crazy.
Tunnels, girl.
Tunnels, yes. And it's like, but that's where all the employee stuff is. Yeah.
I love it. Well, and you were talking about the backdrop and not being, or no backdrop and you can't see out of the park. When I went into Toontown, and I don't go into Toontown very often, when I'm in Disney. It's not like my go-to place. But, there's like the cutout, so it shows like the scenery. Yeah. But the sky was so blue in Anaheim that it just blended in. At one point, my little brain was like, is this real? Like,
right?
Are you in a dome somewhere? Like, that's what it felt like.
I know.
It was like witchcraft.
Well, and I love that it's meant to look like you're in a cartoon.
Yeah. And
the backdrop of Toontown is intentional to look like the scenery painted in a cartoon. It's not supposed to look real.
No.
It's supposed to look very, very artificial, like a cartoon. And I love that.
Well, and we talked about this when I came back, because I went to Galaxy's Edge, which is, if you don't know, the Star Wars land.
Which I can, by the way, never remember the name of. I always just call it Star Wars Land.
Star Wars Land, yeah. And here's something you should know about me, is I don't give a fuck about Star Wars. I know, gasp. There are very few things that I like. There are very few things that I like. Baby Yoda.
Yes.
Jar Jar Binks. R2-D2 and Ewoks. That is literally... Other than that, I don't care.
So you're no C-3PO?
Oh, he's great. I love them as a duo a lot. Like, name a better duo, right? But I just don't care. I don't care about the good versus evil fight, because it's all very played out and boring to me.
Yeah.
I don't care. But Galaxy's Edge, and I don't even know if I've seen all the newest movies where this would make sense.
Oh, I know I haven't.
But I was like, oh, cool, some stuff. And then I walked into the heart of it, and I was all, oh, holy shit, we have been transported, girl. I've apparated to a different planet. Like, the storefronts, the Millennium Falcon, is that what it's called? That thing, and then the other ship.
By the way, I know exactly one place.
Okay.
Which is Tatooine.
Yeah, okay.
And so for me, every place you go is Tatooine.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure other Star Wars people be like, you're stupid.
You're dumb.
This is not it. And no, because I remember I think it's the very first movie, they go to the cantina.
Sure.
Which is in Tatooine.
Okay, yeah. But it was so, again, I don't know anything about Star Wars, but I was all, whoa. Like, there's wood bowls that are carved out. There's statues. It looks like they're crates of shit. Like, it is what you would expect Disney to do.
The marketplace is amazing.
Crazy.
Because when I walked through the marketplace, I was like, this, just the detail on that. They had to spend so much money.
Yeah.
But, budget's not a thing for Disney.
No.
They spent so much money to make sure that every nut, bolt, everything looked like it came from that galaxy.
Oh, so good. So good, girl. I was so about it.
Well, and the ride, again, I can't remember the name of that either. The one that you didn't do?
I don't know what it was called.
The one but it's...
Yeah, Galaxy's Edge ride.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Whatever it's called. It is spectacular. Now, the problem is the line is really long, and it's always really long.
Yeah.
Unless you happen to be the first person in the park and then you run.
Yeah.
And I'm old and fat, so I don't run.
So running out.
Yeah. But... And it breaks down a lot.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of moving parts on this ride. Yeah. But if you get to do the ride, it is spectacular. Okay. Because we when we went last year on my birthday, we were going to do the very first thing the first day. Mm-hmm. And so we get there, get in the park, and even by the time we got there, it's like, it's a 90-minute... Oh, no, it was an hour. About an hour wait. And I was like, But I was like, yeah, we got to do it. So we... get in line, and we're not in line 5 minutes when they're like, oh, the ride broke down. Because, now you can follow all of it on your little app, your Disney app.
Yep.
And it'll tell you when the ride... And I was like, oh, God damn it. But then, and I was too impatient because I just got to Disney.
Yes, girl.
And I'm like, I don't know how long it'll be down. I can't. And so
I won't.
Every other day, we thought about it and we talked about it, but we didn't do it until the last day.
Yeah.
And we get in line. I was like, we got to do this. It's our last day here. I'm not leaving the park without doing this new ride.
Yeah.
Because my friend Elizabeth would be very
I
disappointed
know. I'm
in
so
me.
sorry, Elizabeth.
She'd be like, what?
I know.
You didn't do it. So, anyway, so we get in line, and the way the line works, pretty quickly you're inside the building.
Yeah.
The queue area. And of course, everything in the queue area is all on theme. Mm-hmm. So none of it is just like, oh, you're just standing in a line with stanchions and whatever. You're in, it's all thematic. It's all cool. And they finally built a ride with places where you can actually sit in the line. So smart. But we get in and it says it's a 90-minute wait. And I was like, well, gotta do it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in there 5 minutes when they're like, oh, the ride broke down again. And I was like, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait it out. And a lot of people came out, which shortened the line considerably.
Quite a bit, I bet.
Yeah. And so we were able to move forward and whatever. And it didn't take long for the ride to come back up, but it was still a 90-minute wait to get in there, even with the breakdown. I did, whatever. So worth it.
Okay.
What's funny is when it first starts, they put, and this is the only part I will talk about, is they put you in what looks like a little subway car.
Okay.
And you're standing and you're watching things go by.
Yeah.
And I was like, this had better not be the ride.
Yeah, right.
Because if I waited 90 minutes to ride in a subway car standing up.
I hate it.
No.
Well, and that's why I didn't do it, right? Because, again, in the park when it opened, and there are people, but it's not like midday park where everyone and their fucking children are there. But I was hustling. What? So, anyway, park open, there's people, but not like midday. And so I'm like amped, right? And I'm feeling a little mosh because I'm back in the park. But we go past like Pirates, and that was the first ride I did. I was like, oh, Pirates has a 0-minute wait. I'm just gonna hit that first.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, and then we'll go straight to Galaxy's Edge. And I haven't been to the park in a long way, so I took like a wrong turn, and a park employee said, you lost? And I said, yeah, I need to get to, they're like, let me guess, Galaxy's Edge. And I said, don't tell me I look like that. I'm that kind of nerd. But they sent me the right way, and then I walked through, but it was already an hour wait, right? And I said, I have 1 day in this park. Like, I'm not going to stand in this line for
that
an
makes
hour.
sense.
Right. So I hit most of my favorites, though, Splash Mountain. I didn't do Space Mountain again.
And you're lucky because Splash Mountain is going to be closed here in a minute. Forever and ever to be, when it reopens as a whole different ride.
Yeah. Well,
it's like Tiana's Bayou Adventure, I think, or something like that.
And I'm sure it'll be essentially the same.
I imagine a lot of it will be the same, but it doesn't matter. It won't be Splash Mountain anymore.
I know, and I do love Splash Mountain. I understand where it comes from. I understand the racism, but I do love the ride. What else did I do? Thunder Mountain Railroad. A lot of the rides they said were going to be closed.
I love Thunder Mountain.
Me too. Were not closed. Pirates, Splash Mountain, Thunder Mountain. I did.
Did you do Space Mountain?
No, that's the one I just said I didn't do.
Oh, you didn't do Space Mountain?
Yeah, because the line was too long.
Oh, right.
I did Indiana Jones.
Oh, but you did Star Tours.
Oh, yes.
As you said, you saw that it was new. And,
yeah, and I love Star Tours.
Yeah,
I've always
loved
fantastic. Star Tours, right? Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a good time. It was a lot of fun.
I like the cute little thing where they do in the beginning where they're like, there's a rebel spy on your ship and whatever. And I think it was the second time we did, maybe the third time, who knows. We did it a couple times. It was my son.
Oh, wow.
He was the rebel spy. I was like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, accurate.
And so then when we were in Galaxy's Edge, when we ran into the stormtroopers, I was like,
Rebel Spy.
Right here.
This one.
And because the stormtroopers are going around through the whole little area harassing folk, and it's hilarious, and I love it. And they're like, I told we saw this telling this one woman, we told you never to show your face here again. And it was like that. I love it. I want to be a villain in Disneyland, just so I can talk shit to people.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. But yeah, it was great. It was great. And there was some point, we had eaten, and then I was like, well, let's go to Toontown. And so we went to Toontown, and by this time it is like 2 PM, and it was so busy in Toontown that they were making everyone. Oh my god!
Sorry.
Do you want this to be about you again?
Unintentionally, a little ASMR moment.
Oh, the worst ASMR. Yeah, right. But Toontown was so busy that they were making all the parents with strollers park their strollers before you entered, right? Because there was not enough room. And so we went, cute. And then I was like, oh, look, Roger Rabbit. That line looks little. Of course it does. Because much like the Galaxy's Edge ride, it's all inside. The line is inside.
Yes.
And I was like, this is the longest that I've had to wait for a goddamn ride today. And I'm waiting for Roger Rabbit. Like, I did not expect it to take that long. So by the time, an hour wait, girl. And by the time we were done, I said, I think it's time to go. I'm done. I've been in the sun all day. There's too many people. It'd be different. And Gavin said the same thing. It'd be different if we could just like go back to our hotel and relax.
Right, take a little break.
And then come back. That would be fine. But yeah, or go to a different park, right? But it was still such a good time. The weirdest part to me is that everything is digital, right? Like I just tried to walk into a restaurant and they said, do you have a ticket? And I said, what? Or do you have a reservation? And I said, what? So everything's done through the Disneyland app, which I didn't realize.
I do enjoy that particular aspect that you can order all your food, and then by the time you get there, it's ready.
Yeah.
And so I love that because you can pick out what you want. Because what we would do last time is we would find a place to sit, and then we would go, okay, we're going to go to this part, so we're going to go to this restaurant, and let's look at the menu and what does everybody want, and then T would order everything for us because he had the app on his phone, and then we would stay there and he'd go pick it up. Love that, and he would just walk up to the little pickup window, get our crap, and go sit. Loved it.
Like mobile order. It's like to go. Yeah, because I did that for Alien Pizza Planet, and we found a place and we went and got it. But it was like that you can order it for later. Like, oh, we'll eat between this time.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can adjust the time, girl. Because we had just had a little snack from the little not Starbucks but Starbucks, So we had coffee and a little sandwich. So then I placed an order, but like for a couple hours later. So when we're on that side of town, I know that I do like that because much like when I was a kid and went to the zoo, I like to plan what's going to happen just a little bit. So with all the new things where you can like, it's like the Genie Pass or whatever, where you can like mark I'm going to be at the ride at this point, right?
Yes.
I love that because I'm just doing each like little world, little land, whatever it is, little land. And hitting all those rides with like on a schedule. That's kind of fun, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to say, because when we went last time, the Genie Plus or whatever it's called was new. The Genie Pass has been, or it used to be called, I think it was just called that. I don't remember. But it was like X amount per day and you got like all the photographs and different things. Well, now it's so you get... it's like they call it the lightning lane now, where it was a fast pass. Fast passes used to be free. You walked up, you did a little thing. They told you what time to come back or spit out a little ticket before everything was digital. And you did that, but now you have to buy the fast pass. And it's kind of expensive, and there's still 3 rides that are not included, which I think is a bit... That one pisses me off.
Is the Genie Plus the lightning lane? Are they...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But it also still gets you every picture they take of you in the park is then included. So it's not cheap. It's, I think, $20 a day per person.
Oh, I think it's gone up. It's like $30 a day per person.
But if you buy even a few of those pictures, you'll know that they're expensive.
Yeah.
And so what I do, it's like if we have the picture pass, the photo pass thing. That's what it was called, the photo pass. But anyway, when we have that, it's like I seek out every freaking photographer in the park because I'm like, I'm paying for it. I would rather have their pictures because they're going to be good. They're going to be with character. They're professional camera.
I love that.
It's like, oh, we're going to wait for a minute to have them take our picture.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, why not? So and then all the ones on the rides too, which are always terrible.
Well, so because the Splash Mountain picture.
I love that picture. Gavin looks just not right.
No, right? Like an old man who just woke up from his nap. Like I know. I'm like trying. I didn't want to get wet, obviously, Splash Mountain, but it was very.
So hang on a second. There's water on Splash
I want you to know,
Mountain.
the guy in front of me. Anytime we hit water, I covered my face and ducked behind him, and I said, "Bitch, you can get wet." But because Gavin's like, "Well, do you want to buy this picture?" Because like it was before, I didn't realize that it isn't because there was no place like the place that you could normally walk up and buy that picture was like closed, and I said. what? And then so I took a picture of it and was able to link it to the Disney app.
Yeah.
So I had that, but I was like, interesting. Like, I would think that they souvenir picture, right? Is there no place to print it in the park?
I don't think so.
That's
but
so
no. There's a place on Main Street.
Where
there's the photo place on Main Street. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can, I think, still have pictures printed out there.
Interesting.
But I think that it's not like instant. You have to go like send them in and do that. I believe.
Okay.
I mean, I might be talking straight out my ass. I don't know. I've never done it.
Okay.
Because I've always done the ones where you either get them.
Right.
And I rarely ever buy the pictures if it's just like per ride. But if you do the pass where you're going to get them all anyway, it's like, let's get them all.
Yeah.
And let's get every picture where I look like I have 7 chins because I'm coming down a hill.
Yeah.
And, my neck is pulled all the way back. It's not pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, us, we always know where the cameras are. And so we're posing and making faces and
exactly.
doing things. It's like, well, why not?
No big deal.
Why not?
But yeah, so for our huge audience, we are planning a little family vacation for about a year from now.
Yeah.
To go back to Disneyland. Disneyland! Wait, when did you say? May?
Yeah. Like around my birthday again.
May? Oh, okay, so just for your birthday.
So it'll be about me.
I wanted to go for my birthday, and because I graduated.
I know,
but
but your birthday's in January.
Mm-hmm.
We need more time to save money and, and for it to not be about you.
I know. I fucking hate it here. I fucking hate it here.
Well,
Yeah.
So, after your trip...
I took a trip.
You took a whole nother trip.
Yeah, so...
and I'm curious, I'm interested in this because we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
That,
magic mushrooms.
Psychotropic? Is that the word? Psychedelic.
Yeah.
Is it different?
I don't know. But psychedelic is like the most commonly used phrase.
Okay.
Yeah. So everyone knows what mushrooms are.
So psilocybin.
Psilocybin is like the chemical name for what is in like a magic mushroom.
Okay.
Right? So
that I actually knew.
Cool. And so a lot of states, much like Oregon, they have, Portland specific, but Oregon has decriminalized it. So it's no longer illegal. You won't get in trouble for it, right? But they are also opening clinics this year and next year that are like psilocybin clinics for people with mental affliction. Whether that's anxiety, depression, you're dying of cancer, you just need mental health help because, and I'm going to talk about like why I like it and then we'll talk about my experience. But so I psychedelics I had taken when I lived 100 years ago when I lived in San Francisco. I also took them 5+ years ago for funsies. But it gives you, everything looks like a prism, everything's beautiful. And the biggest thing for me is like, not even like the things you may hear, like, or the visual, they're kind of like hallucinations, but it's not about, it's just the feeling of like, oh, me, the chronic worrier who worries about literally everything.
Yes.
I was like, oh, I have none of that. None whatsoever. I don't have anxiety. I don't feel depressed. I don't.
Which I will tell you, the first time I successfully did an edible
Mm-hmm.
that didn't make me high.
Yeah.
Because that's what I don't like. I don't want to ever be high.
Yeah.
Where I feel like my brain is doing kooky things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't enjoy that. But the first time I successfully did an edible that I was like, oh, what? I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't have any anxiety. I don't have any... Because I was at my sister's house,
Mm-hmm.
and the kids were outside, and I was not with them, and I'm always like, well, if I'm not with them, anything could happen, even if they're with anyone else, literally.
Yep.
And it's like, because I think I'm the only one in the world who can, take care of everything. But it's like, that's how I had no worries.
Nope. And it is great. Like, you feel elated. Like, you can just feel the peace. Like, it is so weird. I can't stop smiling. And not just because I'm like, giggle. But I mean, I am giggly. I also cry a lot. And not in, like, a weeping. But kind of. I'm just so happy and feel so at peace. Like, the most... I kept telling Gavin, like, this is the most peace that I think I've ever felt. Like, it was insane. But, so, when you take a psychedelic, specifically psilocybin... in your brain, there are different networks, right? So there's this one that's like the default neural network, right? When that's what our brain, think of it as like the freeways of our brain, right?
Okay.
So that's what our brain uses most of the time to connect images to symbols, to stories, to meaning. That's what we use all the time when we go on autopilot. That's our routine, most enmeshed fucking way of thinking. But when you take a psychedelic, boop, they shut down that network. Boom, boom, boom. But your brain still needs to function, right?
Now,
So,
when it shuts down, does it make that sound?
it goes
shutting
beep,
off?
boop, boop.
Okay.
Probably you, Androidica. And so instead of taking the freeways of your brain is forced to take like the old back roads or to take like roads that go places they haven't been in a while. And so that's why you feel kooky, and that's why it's an actual physical interesting feeling, is because it's shutting down part of your brain that's like overused and exhausted and opening you up. Things like psilocybin have a way to like reset your emotions. So, for example, I am in my senior year. I just finished my spring semester. I'm working. We just came back from vacation, and all the things that have been happening. And over the last couple of years, I really wanted to take it because I wanted to feel. I was feeling bogged down, right? And I always know that when I start to feel like insecure, I don't want to see people, or I feel like I'm hideous or whatever it is, that's like something's got to give because I'm starting to like dull down, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like taking the psilocybin, I had like it wasn't like extreme, right? I didn't see like monsters, or it wasn't on the moon. Like, it was still my house. I was still watching TV, but I was just like at peace and at ease, and everything is fun and happy and joyful. But it made me feel different because I looked at Gavin and I said, do I have mental illness? No, girl, I don't think I've ever had mental illness. I think that I am. Her little thinker's good, you know? It was I'm
glad her thinker is good.
Her thinker is good. But it was fun, and just like nothing bothered me, you know. And I gave the example, I was actually texting her husband, which is so funny that I'm like microdosing and texting her husband.
Yes.
But I meant to say, like,
in case anybody doesn't know, my husband has never done a drug.
Never.
Has like tried alcohol after we got married for the first and only time.
Uh-huh.
Never smoked, nothing.
Nothing.
He is Mr. Straight Edge.
I know. But I will say I appreciate that he has opened up about it, because for a long time I was like, y'all, it's just marijuana, whatever.
Right. But you were texting him.
But I was texting him, and I tried to say like, that's so exciting, and I put like, that's do exciting instead of so, and I just had to like go back and correct it. And I think normally I would do that and be like, God damn it, like that's an annoyance, right? Even though it's so minor and so stupid. But when I was on my little trip, I was all, ooh, this is fine, like everything is fine, I don't care, like it doesn't bother me at all. Nothing bothered me. I felt, it was crazy. The best part, though, is that things are just hysterical. And so I'm laying in bed, and Gavin he's very sick with allergies and not feeling very well. And so he's napping, and I'm laying in bed next to him, just watching TV, like petting my cat like a crazy person, because it feels like magic. But I'm laying there, and I want you to know, this was Saturday when it was like 85 degrees outside, and still, there was no wind. And of course there's a fan in my room and whatever, so we're laying there, boop, 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 and I'm like, oh my God, do you hear? It's so windy outside. Do you hear the wind? I'm talking to nobody because Gavin's sleeping.
Maybe the cat.
I know, I'm like, girl, the wind, it's so windy. No, I was just having like auditory little hallucinations of like whoosh, whoosh. It's all happening in my brain, but I was like, it's windy. And I'd see the curtain move and be all, not realizing the windows are closed. And I have a fan in my room. But I was like, I didn't realize it was so windy today. I've been outside today. It wasn't that bad. And then I realized. But then I was laughing hysterically to myself because I'm like, you stupid bitch. It is not windy outside. It's windy in your head.
It's
like
windy in your brain.
Yeah.
The breezes are blowing between your ears.
Girl, honestly, yes. At one point I had to go pee, and it was a very warm day. So I went to the bathroom and kept the light off and sat on the floor, and then for a second I was like, why am I in here? I'm like, oh, I had to pee, but it's cool in here, so I sat on the floor.
Sit on the floor and pee.
I mean, yeah, girl, thank God.
That would have been bad.
But yeah, and then, because I took it at like 1:45, and our dinner was at 5-ish.
5:30, I think. Yeah?
Yeah, 5 or 5:30, so that whole time at some point I was like, girl, your family has seen you high, but you cannot go over there like this. Like, you're not mean or angry or crazy, but you're crazy. But girl, you're crazy.
You were super cute because you were just very smiley and giggly.
Yeah, right.
And so you didn't seem high.
Yeah.
And but what I appreciate is that when you came over, you just said what was going on.
Yeah.
And so my kids have seen you high before. They all know that you smoke marijuana and that you whatever, that's just part of your life. And they are so like whatever about it, other than they hate the smell of marijuana.
Yeah.
But they were just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so listening to you talking about this, there was none of that, like, because I would expect,
kids,
your sister,
yeah,
to be like, oh, you're on drugs,
I know,
whatever. But she was fine about the
totally
whole thing.
fine, yeah.
And so I like that.
Yeah, well, and I've changed my usage of marijuana a lot. Because remember when I got so sick in January? That was the last time I didn't do the podcast because I was literally dying. I stopped smoking like actual, what you have to light with a lighter, burn it, flower as they call it. I don't do that because I was so sick that I was like, I can't do it. So I just have a little vape pen and I have little edibles. But like, it doesn't really have a scent anymore, which I'm like grateful for. You know what I mean? I don't need to like go everywhere smelling like a dispensary.
Yeah, that's no good.
No. So, so the psychedelic trip, great times. Good times. I'm not going to tell you where I got it. I'm not going to tell you how I got it. You can't know any of those things.
It's all secret.
I went to the forest and picked some mushrooms. That's all you need to know.
You licked some mushrooms in the forest. It's like, wow, that was the right one. I remember that the one time, one of the times we had family over, and it was not particularly a lot of family that we wanted to see, but they were over for an event, right? And it just so happens that before folks got here, I took a little edible.
God, I forgot about
And we were all sitting out here at the little picnic table, gabbing, you and I, and my husband and whoever. And when I went to stand up, I was a little loopy.
Yeah.
And I loved it because you clocked it like that. You were like, oh, bitch, you high.
I said, are you high? And you're like, yes. And I said, I'm not. Like, I can do this fucking function and I'm sober, sister.
Well, it was funny because it was just this little edibles that I would take sometimes before bed to help me sleep.
Yeah.
And they don't make me high. They do make me a little lightheaded sometimes. And so they make me sometimes just a little lighter than normal. Yeah,
totally.
I'm super interested in the idea of psilocybin.
Yeah.
Because the idea that something could reset, emotions, because especially I have struggled so much starting with COVID. I mean, more than normal. Because my brain is always like, a little maze with rats running through it.
Yeah.
But the idea that something could maybe hit the hard reset on that.
Yeah.
That would be lovely.
That's great. Yeah. It is very nice because, like I said, I think the last time I did it, I told you, was when my stepdad died. And I did it the day before I found out he died. And it really did just put me in a place because, I have had chronic depression and anxiety and PTSD my whole life. And so having moments where I don't have literally any affliction and I feel like, oh, this is what life should feel like, maybe not so like loopy, but it really did help me deal with the fact when Fred died because I had just like hard reset, like flip the breaker, bitch. Like you were too much. And it helped. Granted, it still hit me, but it would have been worse.
But it didn't completely take you out.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and that makes sense. But, it is something I'm interested in. I at the same time, I would like to try it, but then I'm also nervous to try it because it's like, how does that work, especially with children? Yeah. It's like, do I go to my room and take it, just stay in my room and avoid everybody so that I'm not super, I don't know.
But mostly, most people, unless they're eating, here's the thing, unless you're eating like so much psilocybin, because people, if you eat too much, here's the thing, you'll never die. You will never die on a psychedelic. Or on psilocybin specifically. It won't kill you, ever. You will just be very high. You'll have a trip for a long time. But mine was chocolate, right? And it was in like pieces, and I ate 3 of them out of like 12. So I was like, and I didn't know if that was a lot, but it was fine. Yeah. It was a great time. But I think like I could have taken it and been around you guys. Yeah. I would have been cuckoo, but it wouldn't have been bad. I wouldn't have been angry or violent. It's not like alcohol or anything crazy, So yeah. And I feel like it's different than marijuana, whereas marijuana makes people high and mostly like, I want to attack a bag of Cheetos or take a nap,
What's funny to me is the few times as a grown person that I've done it, it always makes me feel like there is something wrong with my brain. Like I am not really in my brain. Yeah. but not in a pleasant, like I've just stepped out of it kind of way, but like, one, everybody can look at me and know that I'm high. You know, they're looking at me going, bitch, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But I have to try and hold it all together, but it feels like my head is completely stuffed with cotton. And it's a really just unpleasant feeling.
Yeah.
Whereas the edibles that I started getting, which are like 1-to-1, so they're one
THC.
part THC, one part CBD.
Yeah.
Which apparently they, no, the last ones I got were one part, because those were the ones I got for a while, and then they started doing the ones that were one part CBD, one part THC, and one part CBN.
I don't know what that
but I don't know what that is.
Is that a TV station?
It is. It is. It's like the Christian Broadcast Network. So when I eat those, I see Tammy Faye.
Okay.
You know,
oh.
which I love Tammy Faye.
Yeah,
So
girl.
that's all good.
Same.
But like I said, the first time because I had some of the ones that like Becky had made, like in the Rice Krispies. And one time it was nothing, and one time I thought it was going to kill me. So it was hard gauging.
Yeah.
And one time I smoked some stuff that Debbie gave me, and one puff, and I was high as a freaking kite for hours. And then I gave it to you, and you're like, "Yeah, it made me smell color." So
Yeah,
it was high, it was strong. So it's very hard for me to like find that balance. And when I was in high school, it was the first time I ever smoked pot. And one of my girlfriends, she was like, "Hey, do you want to walk to the park with me?" And I'm like, "No, why would I do that?" She goes, "Well, because I'm going to go and I'm going to smoke, and you should come with me." And I'm like, "I don't want to. I don't smoke. Why?" And so, but you know, whatever. And I went with her anyway. Went down to, what was that park called? Beulah Park or something?
Sure. I can't remember.
It is like the perfect setting for a horror film.
Are you about Yamhill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one on the edge of town where they used to do Derby Days. Probably still do.
Yeah, they do.
But when it's not, whatever you call that.
Yeah.
My brain.
It's a park.
I know, but when they're not having Derby Days there,
Yeah.
which is just their little local celebration or whatever. It's this empty park with empty buildings, and it's creepy.
Yeah.
And so we went there and went into one of the empty buildings, and I smoked weed for the very first time. I was a junior in high school, and then walked back to school. So that also means I didn't eat lunch because I walked
doing the drugs,
smoked the drugs, and which were, by the way, super illegal. I mean, it was like we could have ended up in big trouble. But I get back to school, and there's enough time from walking from Beulah Park back to, and it's what, 3 blocks,
something like that,
3 blocks.
maybe.
But by the time I got back to school, I was pretty high, and all new to me because I'd never done it before. I'd never done anything before that, and I was so paranoid that I was like, everyone knows, everyone's looking at me. Yeah. They all know I'm high. They're all staring at me. They're going to figure I'm going to get kicked out of school. I'm probably going to get arrested. I'm probably, all just the cuckoo craziness. But for me, the worst part really was, so after lunch is 5th period, which was my favorite class, which was one of my English classes. I fell asleep. Oh, because that is the effect weed has on me, is I fall asleep.
Well, girl, good.
Or at least I used to.
Yeah.
And so I fell asleep more than once. And when we got our progress reports that said I was failing this class, because, if you don't stay awake for it, you can't really do the work.
Yeah.
And that, I was like, I can't fail a class. I've never failed a class. And not my favorite class. Good Lord. What would my favorite teacher think?
How embarrassing.
Right. So that was that.
Yeah.
I think it was probably 3 weeks of smoking pot. I was done.
You're all, guess what? This was good.
Although I will say that the one and only time I ever felt, peer pressured was after high school. And I was probably 18 still. I had gone to my brother's house, and his roommate, pressured me into smoking pot with him. I'm like, I don't want to, thanks. And he's like, but this is good stuff. And I'm like, I will fall asleep.
Yeah.
Weed makes me sleepy. And he was like, no, I said, it doesn't matter what it is.
He's
I
like,
will
this
fall
is
asleep.
laced with cocaine. It's fine.
Right. And if it was laced with cocaine, I probably wouldn't have fallen asleep. Yeah. But thank God it wasn't. And finally I was just like, fine, I'll smoke with you.
I could use a nap.
And so I smoked with him. I fell asleep. And then he was mad that I fell asleep. And I'm like, you're a dumbass. I told you I would fall asleep. I told you several times I would fall asleep. And then I Fell asleep. So, get over yourself.
Dumb as a box of rocks.
Turns out, though, he was crazy as a tick, so.
Well, thank God all he wanted to do was smoke weed with you.
Right.
But you were asleep around him.
Who knows?
Scary. Scary girl.
I know. And for me, I mean, it's like, I grew up in the era where they showed you all those ridiculous movies in school, where it's like, you do this, you smoke the marijuana, and you're going to jump off the top of a building, you know, whatever. You're going to think you can fly, and, you know, it's like, you know, that's not true.
Like Reefer
But
Madness.
they scare you. The whole idea was to scare children into not doing it. And so when I was in high school, before I ever did it, we did this survey that they were like, we want the whole school to do this survey, and it was about drug use. And everyone's like, be honest, because no one will know who did what. There's no names on anything. And me, I'm so naive at this point that I'm all, nobody here does drugs. None of my friends do drugs. I know them all. So blah, blah, you know, whatever. And then the results came back sometime later that a huge percentage of my school was doing drugs. And I was like, well, there is nothing else to do in Yamhill and Carlton other than drink or do drugs. But I was like, wait, what? Am I the only one?
Yeah.
And so, but those movies, those stupid movies that made me feel like, oh God, if I do it, I'm going to die. I'm going to go crazy. And yes, I did see Reefer Madness. And, you know, the original, not the funny one.
I love that.
And so my experiences with drugs are very limited.
Yeah.
And when I was a young adult, one of my friends was, I would hate to say a drug dealer, but I guess they were. I mean, you know, but they had a real job too.
Yeah.
But they also supplied their friends. With some, you know.
Like you do.
Right. But never bothered to even ask me, do you want some? Because they knew I was Miss Straight Laced, goody, whatever. The one time, because I was like, you know, maybe I'd like to try.
One bag of drugs, please.
One bag of drugs, please. Well, it was, and I don't even remember what it was, but it was something that makes you speedy. And it wasn't speed, but it was something else. It doesn't matter. But it was my friend Louise. And I was like, you know, I'd like to, and she was all, okay, cool, whatever.
Let's do it.
But you've never done this before, so I'm going to give you a quarter dose. And I was like, fine, whatever. So I took the little quarter dose, and I was like, nothing. And I don't know, I think it's magical. Like, instantly I swallow it, I'm supposed to instantly feel something, right? Because I don't know. I
get it.
Whatever. And after a little bit, I was like, nothing. And so she gave me, I ended up eventually taking the entire dose, right? But because the quarter and a half and whatever, didn't do anything. After I took the full dose, so we're at a bar, and I suddenly am so thirsty that I just can't live unless I get some. And so I went up to the bar, and one of my friends is bartending. I was like, oh my God, I need a Diet Coke stat. And so he gives me a Diet Coke, and I'm literally sucking it out of the other side of the cup with a straw as he's pouring it. Because I'm so thirsty. And then I went over to Louise, and I was like, you know, I don't think this drug is working because I haven't felt anything. I don't think anything is different. I don't know. And I talked like that, and she was just like, go sit down.
Yeah. Shh, honey.
Go sit down. You go 9 now.
Yeah.
You just go away. Actually, just go away.
Yeah.
Because you're too much right now, and you're talking a million, and it did affect you, so just go enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, and so, well,
Did you go dance?
I was in a video bar, so I don't think so. I think I just sat and watched the videos and did whatever. Who knows? It was a long time
Probably
ago.
I can knitted a blanket the whole time.
Right, I knitted an entire blanket.
Yeah.
Even though I have no idea how to knit.
In the 20 minutes I was here.
Right. I made a blanket and a pair of booties for a baby. And didn't even have knitting needles, so I'm not sure how I did it. Right, with my fingers and yarn that I was pulling out of someone's sweater who was sitting next to me. I deconstructed their clothing. And I'm like, what is happening here? Oh, look I'm a miracle worker. I just made a whole wardrobe.
Just give her the speed. Or not speed. Wink, wink, wink.
Whatever it was. I don't know. It's like I took speed once to help me lose weight, and it just made me eat faster. So, I really, drugs and me,
they do a different effect. I love that for you.
I know, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I love it. How funny.
Anyhow, so you know what? I hate to rush this out here, but we've reached the end of our time.
It's time for me to leave.
It's time for you to go. You've been here too long.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Oh, you know.
Honey.
Girl, you know you have been here too long. Anyhow, so I'm so glad you're back.
Thanks, me too.
I don't ever want to do the pod by myself again. I guess next time I'll plan better, like get a special guest to come over. So I have someone to talk to. It won't be you, so it won't be the same.
Know.
But, you know.
Well, next year we can do the pod from Disneyland.
I know.
Oh my god,
how fun will that be?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, I love
We
it.
just gotta make this year go
Do you
by.
love it?
I love it.
So, thanks for joining us. And if you want to send us any messages or whatever, pictures, gift cards. My birthday is coming right up. My birthday is on Sunday. It will also be the 40th anniversary of me starting to perform as Patty O'Dora. So, 40 years. Long time. It's
Holy
crazy.
shit.
Right. So, I'm accepting all the gift cards to all the places. And you don't even have to worry that it's my actual birthday. The whole month of May, really.
Oh, I know.
So it would seem as though at gmail.com. And of course, you can find us on all the podcasting apps. And you can find us here if you want to come to our house. Don't come to our house.
Oh, God,
come to our
please
house.
don't.
No,
We can
'cause-
come to her house, but don't come to mine.
No, because people.
People.
In the words of Willow Pill, I hate people.
Agreed. And that was the worst part of it being in California. There were so many people.
people-y.
So
Yeah.
people-y, yeah.
So we're going to go de-people right now. And we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
It would seem as though